What's really going on? Who's his consultant? I watched this on the news live, and I thought something was. I couldn't place it until I came home, and what is this? It's like supposed to be a crown, and then the epaulets right here on his shoulders. What is that? What's really going on? Let's listen to the speech. But whoa. Someone else on YouTube said that that's a green screen behind him. I don't know. I can't tell. I don't know. It might be. I'm trying to look along the edges to see if there's something behind him, but I think that's the White House. But why? Someone else wrote on here that it looked like he has some kind of subliminal crown, and then I see the epaulets, that go on the jacket like a military jacket. Wow. Okay, let's watch a few minutes of it. I don't know if, yeah, let's play it.
Here. Over the past 2 years, what began as a series of peaceful protests against the repressive regime of Bashar al-Assad has turned into a brutal civil war. Over 100,000 people have been killed. Millions have fled the country. In that time, America has worked with allies to provide humanitarian support, to help the moderate opposition, and to shape a political settlement. But I have resisted calls for military action because we cannot resolve someone else's civil war through force, particularly after a decade of war in Iraq and Afghanistan. The situation profoundly changed, though, on August 21st, when Assad's government gassed to death over 1,000 people, including hundreds of children. The images from this massacre are sickening. Men, women, children lying in rows, killed by poison gas. Others foaming at the mouth, gasping for breath. A father clutching his dead children, imploring them to get up and walk. On that terrible night, the world saw in gruesome detail the terrible nature of chemical weapons and why the overwhelming majority of humanity has declared them off limits, a crime against humanity, and a violation of the laws of war. This was not always the case. In World War I, American GIs were among the many thousands killed by deadly gas in the trenches of Europe. In World War II, the Nazis used gas to inflict the horror of the Holocaust. Because these weapons can kill on a mass scale, with no distinction between soldier and infant, the civilized world has spent a century working to ban them. And in 1997, the United States Senate overwhelmingly approved an international agreement prohibiting the use of chemical weapons, now joined by 189 governments that represent 98% of humanity. On August 21st, these basic rules were violated, along with our sense of common humanity. No one disputes that chemical weapons were used in Syria. The world saw thousands of videos, cell phone pictures, and social media accounts from the attack. And humanitarian organizations told stories of hospitals packed with people who had symptoms of poison gas. Moreover, we know the Assad regime was responsible. In the days leading up to August 21st, we know that Assad's chemical weapons personnel prepared for an attack near an area where they mix sarin gas. They distributed gas masks to their troops. Then they fired rockets from a regime-controlled area into 11 neighborhoods that the regime has been trying to wipe clear of opposition forces. Shortly after those rockets landed, the gas spread, and hospitals filled with the dying and the wounded. We know senior figures in Assad's military machine reviewed the results of the attack, and the regime increased their shelling of the same neighborhoods in the days that followed. We've also studied samples of blood and hair from people at the site that tested positive for sarin. When dictators commit atrocities, they depend upon the world to look the other way until those horrifying pictures fade from memory. But these things happened. The facts cannot be denied. The question now is what the United States of America and the international community is prepared to do about it. Because what happened to those people, to those children, is not only a violation of international law, it's also a danger to our security. Let me explain why. If we fail to act, the Assad regime will see no reason to stop using chemical weapons. As the ban against these weapons erodes, other tyrants will have no reason to think twice about acquiring poison gas and using them. Over time, our troops would again face the prospect of chemical warfare on the battlefield, and it could be easier for terrorist organizations to obtain these weapons and to use them to attack civilians. If fighting spills beyond Syria's borders, these weapons could threaten allies like Turkey, Jordan, and Israel. And a failure to stand against the use of chemical weapons would weaken prohibitions against other weapons of mass destruction and embolden Assad's ally, Iran, which must decide whether to ignore international law by building a nuclear weapon or to take a more peaceful path. This is not a world we should accept. This is what's at stake. And that is why, after careful deliberation, I determined that it is in the national security interests of the United States to respond to the Assad regime's use of chemical weapons through a targeted military strike. The purpose of this strike would be to deter Assad from using chemical weapons, to degrade his regime's ability to use them, and to make clear to the world that we will not tolerate their use. That's my judgment as Commander-in-Chief. But I'm also the President of the world's oldest constitutional democracy. So even though I possess the authority to order military strikes, I believed it was right, in the absence of a direct or imminent threat to our security, to take this debate to Congress. I believe our democracy is stronger when the President acts with the support of Congress. And I believe that America acts more effectively abroad when we stand together. This is especially true after a decade that put more and more war-making power in the hands of the President and more burdens on the shoulders of our troops while sidelining the people's representatives from the critical decisions about when we use force. Now, I know that after the terrible toll of Iraq and Afghanistan, the idea of any military action, no matter how limited, is not going to be popular. After all, I've spent 4.5 years working to end wars, not to start them. Our troops are out of Iraq. Our troops are coming home from Afghanistan. And I know Americans want all of us in Washington, especially me, to concentrate on the task of building our nation here at home, putting people back to work, educating our kids, growing our middle class. It's no wonder then that you're asking hard questions. So let me answer some of the most important questions that I've heard from members of Congress and that I've read in letters that you've sent to me. First, many of you have asked, won't this put us on a slippery slope to another war? One man wrote to me that we are still recovering from our involvement in Iraq. A veteran put it more bluntly. This nation is sick and tired of war. My answer is simple. I will not put American boots on the ground in Syria. I will not pursue an open-ended action like Iraq or Afghanistan. I will not pursue a prolonged air campaign like Libya or Kosovo. This would be a targeted strike to achieve a clear objective, deterring the use of chemical weapons and degrading Assad's capabilities. Others have asked whether it's worth acting if we don't take out Assad. As some members of Congress have said, there's no point in simply doing a pinprick strike in Syria. Let me make something clear. The United States military doesn't do pinpricks. Even a limited strike will send a message to Assad that no other nation can deliver. I don't think we should remove another dictator with force. We learned from Iraq that doing so makes us responsible for all that comes next. But a targeted strike can make Assad, or any other dictator, think twice before using chemical weapons. Other questions involve the dangers of retaliation. We don't dismiss any threats, but the Assad regime does not have the ability to seriously threaten our military. Any other retaliation they might seek is in line with threats that we face every day. Neither Assad nor his allies have any interest in escalation that would lead to his demise. And our ally Israel can defend itself with overwhelming force, as well as the unshakable support of the United States of America. Many of you have asked a broader question. Why should we get involved at all in a place that's so complicated, and where, as one person wrote to me, those who come after Assad may be enemies of human rights? It's true that some of Assad's opponents are extremists, but al-Qaeda will only draw strength in a more chaotic Syria if people there see the world doing nothing to prevent innocent civilians from being gassed to death. The majority of the Syrian people and the Syrian opposition we work with just want to live in peace, with dignity and freedom. And the day after any military action, we would redouble our efforts to achieve a political solution that strengthens those who reject the forces of tyranny and extremism. Finally, many of you have asked, why not leave this to other countries or seek solutions short of force? As several people wrote to me, we should not be the world's policeman. I agree, and I have a deeply held preference for peaceful solutions. Over the last 2 years, my administration has tried diplomacy and sanctions, warnings and negotiations, but chemical weapons were still used by the Assad regime. However, over the last few days, we've seen some encouraging signs. In part because of the credible threat of U.S. military action, as well as constructive talks that I had with President Putin, the Russian government has indicated a willingness to join with the international community in pushing Assad to give up his chemical weapons. The Assad regime has now admitted that it has these weapons, and even said they joined the Chemical Weapons Convention, which prohibits their use. It's too early to tell whether this offer will succeed, and any agreement must verify that the Assad regime keeps its commitments. But this initiative has the potential to remove the threat of chemical weapons without the use of force, particularly because Russia is one of Assad's strongest allies. I have therefore asked the leaders of Congress to postpone a vote to authorize the use of force while we pursue this diplomatic path. I'm sending Secretary of State John Kerry to meet his Russian counterpart on Thursday, and I will continue my own discussions with President Putin. I've spoken to the leaders of two of our closest allies, France and the United Kingdom, and we will work together in consultation with Russia and China to put forward a resolution at the UN Security Council requiring Assad to give up his chemical weapons and to ultimately destroy them under international control. We'll also give UN inspectors the opportunity to report their findings about what happened on August 21st. And we will continue to rally support from allies from Europe to the Americas, from Asia to the Middle East, who agree on the need for action. Meanwhile, I've ordered our military to maintain their current posture, to keep the pressure on Assad, and to be in a position to respond if diplomacy fails. And tonight I give thanks again to our military and their families for their incredible strength and sacrifices. My fellow Americans, for nearly 7 decades, the United States has been the anchor of global security. This has meant doing more than forging international agreements. It has meant enforcing them. The burdens of leadership are often heavy, but the world's a better place because we have borne them. And so, to my friends on the right, I ask you to reconcile your commitment to America's military might with a failure to act when a cause is so plainly just. To my friends on the left, I ask you to reconcile your belief in freedom and dignity for all people with those images of children writhing in pain and going still on a cold hospital floor. For sometimes resolutions and statements of condemnation are simply not enough. Indeed, I'd ask every member of Congress and those of you watching at home tonight to view those videos of the attack and then ask, what kind of world will we live in if the United States of America sees a dictator brazenly violate international law with poison gas and we choose to look the other way? Franklin Roosevelt once said, our national determination to keep free of foreign wars and foreign entanglements cannot prevent us from feeling deep concern when ideals and principles that we have cherished are challenged.
Wow. So I'm not sure. We might be going to war. Sounds like it. I'm not sure. But maybe I'm just looking at just where the speech is, and it was kind of hard to watch for myself. Maybe because of the distraction of the chandelier that looks like a crown behind his head and the epaulets, and or maybe this is the pyramid. Is that an Illuminati pyramid? Look at that. That might be the pyramid. I don't know. I don't know what's really going on. That's all I got to say. How strange that background looks. It just looks strange. I'm sorry. Live, this is One for the Record. I'm Diana, and today is September 10th, 2013, and here are your news updates for today. Well, I put on Obama's speech. I noticed some abnormalities with the background. I felt it was very hard to watch, but I found some other weird stuff. You'll see it. I'm going to put it on the head of this, so you probably already just saw it. Also, at the end, adult language, I'm going to have Kevin Blanch's view on the 2020 Olympics. Alrighty then. So, warning, adult language. But he explains why Japan was able to bid and get the Olympics over there, even though there's a lot of radiation. They say there isn't, but we know differently. Alrighty then. Let's first move to the watchers watching the world real quick. Sorry it's so late. I've been uploading the speech for a while. Let's see. Tropical storm Humberto to become hurricane of 2013 Atlantic season. Tropical storm Gabrielle reforms and spins near Bermuda. Wars and rumors of wars. Also, is rocket fuel making truly organic farming impossible? Alrighty then, moving on. Let's get rid of this. Okay, let's move on to E&E News, theenergynews.com. Japan nuclear expert. I am totally fed up, Fukushima fisherman. Radioactive water is getting more and more serious. Also today, NHK special. Farmer in Fukushima no-go zone finds certain abnormalities in his herd. Cancer professor. I wonder what discoloration is. Study could be relevant to humans. Also today, Japan Times, Prime Minister telling outright lie? Experts. Nuclear material has kept gushing into Pacific far beyond man-made bay. Fukushima fisherman. He must be kidding. He doesn't know what's going on? Wow. I'm also giving an update on the Sinkhole flyover. Also today, Tokyo professor, recent tests show new radioactive materials flowing non-stop into ocean from Fukushima reactor buildings. Also today, NHK, contaminated water problem getting more serious at Fukushima, government task force on nuclear waste flowing into Pacific Ocean. Also today, AFP, fears that Fukushima melted reactor cores have eaten through concrete of containment vessels. TEPCO plans claims fuel to be removed at same time as 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. Hey, let me read that again. AFP. Fears that Fukushima melted fuel cores have eaten through concrete of contaminant vessels. TEPCO plan claims fuel to be removed at same time as 2020 Olympics in Tokyo. Oh, so they're not going to try to remove that fuel for another 6 years? I don't think they're going to even get near that place, because it's cumulative. Also today, Japan nuclear expert. I was flabbergasted by Olympic speech. Fukushima reactors are actually destroyed and constantly leaking in ocean. Contamination dumping into sea. PM. It's contained in 0.3 kilometers square area of harbor. Wow. Alrighty then. Let's see if we can get into U.S. Canada real quick. See what's going on there. Whoa, wouldn't everybody want to send their athletes over to Fukushima while they're trying to take out thousands of tonnage of radioactive fuel rods that are bent and whatever else is going on? Today, U.S. Canada. Exclusive report. Congressman requests hearing on new developments at Fukushima plant. Key issue is whether radioactive pollution will affect U.S. Oh, okay. Are you slowly getting a wake-up call? That's alright. Alrighty then. It is 2 days down. 3 to go before the weekend. Hang on in there. Everybody's hanging on. Be prepared for anything. I just bought a whole bunch of pet food. The giant bags. And cat litter. Be ready. Get stuff now. You don't know what's going to happen. Alrighty? Be prepared. Get your emergency food supplies. Be ready for anything, okay? And I'll see you tomorrow on the flip side. Stay tuned. And again, there's a language warning with Kevin Blanch, but you got to hear what he has to say. He is a college professor. Alrighty then. See you on the flip side tomorrow. Be safe. I'll see you tomorrow.
They'll be calling you a radical. I want to put up a video concerning the awarded the Olympic bid to Tokyo. The only reason they got the bid, if it wasn't for Fukushima, they wouldn't get the bid. And you're like, what? What are you talking about? Istanbul would have got the bid. They were going to get the bid. Why? The IOC and the IAEA are the exact same people. They're the most corrupt organizations in the world. For real. For real. Hey, right here in Salt Lake, right here in Utah, I knew Welch personally. I went to the open ceremonies in 2002. What a group of freaking People were at that thing, wow, 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 as their logo was, light the fire within. Now they're going to change to, we lit the fire within. This is so all you sheep out there can say, and all the sheep as they just feed you, this has been reported, you refuse to listen to it. The problem is ignorance of the American sheep, so the sheep can say, oh, it can't be that bad, they got the Olympics. It's not going to work. I can tell you right here, right now, it is not going to work. They're going right out of the Chernobyl playbook, which did work. We'd had these YouTube cameras. I'd been out here, a bunch of us been out there then. We were fighting then, but we didn't have this medium to get out the real, because we are the media. The ice wall, the whole thing is, it's all right out of the playbook. It's a scam, and it's not going to work. You think countries are, okay, you're an athlete. By the way, all you athletes that come to Moab and train, you know how many of them, as the guy who won the Ironman died in our unit of leukemia, so many of freaking these marquee athletes are in our leukemia unit. Why? Because they moved from LA or whatever, because they think it's cool to train in Moab, southern Utah, the nuclear fallout capital of the world, 300 open air tests, it's in the dust, it's in the thing, uranium tailings, it's the most contaminated place on earth, except for maybe Chernobyl, Belarus, and the Ukraine. Look, this is a smoke screen, and to you in Istanbul and Madrid, get ready for the reopening of the bid. This ain't going to happen. Athletes aren't going to go. Countries aren't going to send their athletes. It's not going to happen. You know, I always go back to, in my book I write about, what? We boycotted the 19 Olympics for what? The invasion of Afghanistan when we made bin Laden. We are bin Laden. When we made Saddam, we are Saddam. What? What? We propped up Saddam when what? What? Reagan and Bechtel let the freaking, really? American public, the very second he was inaugurated, they let him go, what? Huh? Wow. Are we really even in this day and age this pathetic? Yeah. It's a smoke screen. The ice wall, it's a giant smoke screen. It's a fucking joke. It's beyond a fucking joke. It's just propaganda. It's been important. This is the Pacific genocide is very, very real. This is the greatest disaster in the history of humanity. People say, oh, I'm overstating and overstating. Okay, 1 year from now, you come back and remember this. Say, oh, Kevin was overstating. Just like you guys told me I was overstating it 2 years ago. Just like Randall and Raven carried on that day, this is going to give so many people leukemia, and then 7 months later, I got leukemia. Remember this. I live exactly. You can draw a line from Fukushima, Japan to right here. I live exactly on that line. As I was contaminated as Utah's, it put me over the top. There's no fucking doubt. It's a cumulative, fools. Cancer rates are spiking in North America now. My number, 1,000 people a day, is so low. It's much more than that. It's a cumulative. Cancer survival rates were going like this till 2 years ago. They're off a cliff. These units are giantly full. Our West 8 has become our East and West 8 now. It's overflowing. People that were surviving are dying. Survival rates, and why don't we hear it? Because once it attacks you, most people are dead like that. And they're like, oh, it's God's will. Tim Shell, as thou mayest, men are responsible for their actions. Yeah, people can say what they want about me. I really don't give a fuck what any of you fucks say about me. I really don't give a fuck. The Olympics, the IOC, and the IAA are the exact identical same people. The two most corrupt organizations. As it was said, the Salt Lakes were the most corrupt Olympics ever. Well, Tokyo passed it. Well, they're never going to happen in Tokyo. I don't believe it'll ever happen in fucking Tokyo. Because this story's going to grow and grow and grow. You haven't seen nothing yet. Yeah, has it been pouring in the Pacific for 900 and some odd fucking days? Yeah, but does the American fucking sheep know? Fuck no, the sheep don't know. Fuck, the sheep are a fucking sleep like they've always been a fucking sleep. Well, they're much worse. As this morning we're having a conversation about rush hour. I says, I remember when my mom says school didn't start till 9:30 in the United States when she was a little girl. Rush hour used to be between 8 and 9. Then it was fucking between 7 and 8, between 6. It's 4:30 in the morning now. As you fucking shit. Old generations would have said, fuck you. Are you kidding me? But you are your own fucking worst enemy as they feed you this demographic and you just go, the GOP is, they're not conservatives. They're regressives. Aggressive regressives. And I used to call the Democrats the butterflies, but what an insult to butterflies. The aggressive regressives. You know, if they had their way here, the women would be wearing burqas back to the fucking cave. You're your own worst fucking enemy. You'll fucking go work 10 fucking jobs at fucking 12, 13 fucking dollars a fucking, really? When the average American in 1975 made $106,000 a year, the average athlete only made 3 times the average working class American. Why? Because we had tariffs. We had usury laws. What? So, that fucking, we gotta get a gun, we gotta get a gun, the terrorists are getting us, some terrorists are getting us. The IOC and the IEA are fucking the biggest terrorists in human history. They're the fucking terrorists. That's what this is all about. Check it out. The IOC and the IEA, and these are people with names. They're people. Most 2 corrupt organizations in the fucking world. World Health Organization, the UN, they're all in bed together. The same fucking atomic, nuclearism, General Electric fucking cabal of evil. That's what this is about. Ain't gonna happen. Olympics ain't gonna happen in Tokyo. Ain't gonna happen. Stay tuned.